Snoop Dogg was here though. I always like to see him getting his check. You know?
I do like to see Snoop Dogg too.
You know, he's always doing his thing.
He did his thing. He did a Snoop Dogg thing.
Yeah. Always just playing himself, just in like a slightly different costume. You know?
That's basically
Like,
it.
that's what I love about it.
Hi, I'm Danielle.
And I'm Dell.
And this is the Black Catch-Up, where we're catching up on iconic black media we missed out on in our more conservative religious childhood.
Alright, so Sam. Alright, so today was a more recent one. We watched Day Shift.
Yes, we did, with Jamie Foxx.
Yep.
So, as always, IMDb. A hard-working blue-collar dad just wants to provide a good life for his quick-witted 10-year-old daughter. His mundane San Fernando Valley pool cleaning job is a front for his real source of income, hunting and killing vampires.
Yeah, that was the whole movie. Definitely the movie there. You know?
Yeah.
But, yeah, alright, I guess as usual we start off with things we liked about this one.
Yes, sir.
I guess you want to kick this one off, or?
Yeah. I will say the first thing that I wrote down is that I enjoyed the coloring of this movie for the most part. It got a little bleak at the end, but it was very like warm and kind of like a little overexposed a bit, and it just gave it a really cool vibe to me. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and I think sort of related. I thought a lot of the like locations were really nice for this one. Like,
Yeah.
not your typical, I guess, vampire movie locations. Like, not like the abandoned house or whatever. Or like some like
Yeah.
creepy nighttime scenes. Like, there were like a lot of fun scenes at like bowling alleys. I think there was like a
Yeah.
scene in like a mall type. Or I don't know if it was a mall, but there was also like the
think
scene
it
in
was
like
a
that
mall.
model home as well. That was like kind of
Yeah.
I don't know. So I thought they had
It
like a
felt
lot of
very
good
vibrant.
scenes. Yeah, I definitely agree.
Like they definitely leaned into the location, like geographically.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I liked that a lot.
I also really liked the fight scenes in this one.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that too.
Yeah, I thought they had like a lot of like fun moments. I think one of my favorite was whatever fight those two brothers came in as well. I don't know if like it was Jamie Foxx, I think it was either Seth or Snoop Dogg's character. But it was one of the early ones, and the two brothers were like in sync,
yeah.
and they did that one scene where they like passed a singular bullet.
Yeah.
He was like, "Hey, give me one," and he like passes a bullet. So anyway, I thought there were just like some cool little like scenes like that, like little moments like that in a lot of the fight scenes.
Yeah,
I
we
really
did get
like
a
those.
couple cute little fight scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Again, for me, it kind of fell apart at the end, but I guess we'll get to that later.
Yeah, yeah.
But, like, especially when we were in that whole vampire hunting place of, like, Jamie Foxx's character, this is how he makes his money, and all that stuff. When we were in that place, very much so, I think it worked really well.
Yeah, yeah.
The last one that I had was Carla Souza, the villain character. I liked her a lot. I could have used more with her. I especially liked her bright colored suits. The only thing with her was, again, we'll probably get this as the negatives, but she seemed like she was in a different movie to me. But I really liked her. I've remembered her from How to Get Away with Murder. That's where I first saw her. So I like her, like, that was like a carry-on enjoyment of a person.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think she really worked in this movie. Like, worked really well. I liked the not wearing the typical villain, like, dowdy, like, dark colors. She was very bright, vibrant. Again, with the coloring in this movie, I liked her as a villain.
Okay, nice. Yeah, that was about all I had. I also wrote down that there were some funny moments in this one. Like, I thought Jamie Foxx was pretty enjoyable in this one. And, who was it, Dave Franco, or... I thought he was okay. Like,
Yeah, Dave.
Yeah, his little,
I was
kind
trying
of
to, like, boot
nerdy
up. I'm
role.
like,
Yeah.
what's his brother's name?
Yeah, but his little, like, kind of being the nerd, like, kind of role in this was... I thought it was okay, but I did like Jamie Foxx's character quite a bit.
Yeah. Jamie Foxx character's good.
Alright, I guess ready for negatives?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess I'll kick this one off. Like, I thought there was just, like, very little, like, substance to this movie. Like,
Yeah.
very little character development, very little character depth. The story was, like, very thin and, like, just, almost, like, not a lot going... Like, it was very, very much, like, he wanted to save his kid, or he wanted to like keep his kid and family in Florida or whatever, or not in Florida, And so like I got that motivation, but like aside from that, like he was kind of just fighting vampires, which was cool, but like the plot itself, like I didn't really know where the big bad came from, and like the whole like the one vampire you happen to kill happened to be this lady's daughter. And the other thing that really bothered me about this one was they seemed to set, like in the beginning it seemed like they were setting up a lot of like vampire rules and like lore and like the 5 different types. And then they just kind of abandon it all and let vampires do whatever they want. And like, it just like, like at first I was like, oh, there are these 5 levels. Like, let's see how they interact. Like certain hierarchies. Where I was like, cool. Yeah. And then it came down to it. I was like, oh, that was just an excuse to give them all different rules and abilities. I see. And so like, I don't know. It just, yeah, there are a lot of like problems with like the story for this one to me at least.
Yeah, I was glad you mentioned that because one of the cardinal rules of when you make a monster thing is to give us the rules of the monster, and they kind of did that, but like you said, they just like abandoned it. I would have much preferred if they went a little bit more into the vampire lore, because this movie's like 2 hours long, and we don't know, and we didn't like understand anything about the vampires, and this is a vampire movie. Like when Dave Franco's character's vampire ended up living after getting his head chopped off, I was like, that was the one thing that you need to, like, how is he still... Oh, my God. It was so irritating. I'm like, you can't have a vampire movie and then not explain the vampires. Like, all of... like, I hate to mention it, but for all of Twilight's faults, they explain the vampires and the vampire rules.
Yep.
Like, granted, their rules are dumb, but they're there, and you have to follow them. But this one, they didn't do that.
See, but honestly, I almost wish they said nothing, because they did have those, like, scenes at the beginning where, like the Seth guy was, like, flexing his book knowledge about vampires. So, like, there were rules, but, like, they just didn't seem to mean anything, or, like, they didn't follow. Like, I didn't get it, you know? Like, it made no sense to me,
One of mine was, for as long as this movie is, it didn't do the best job of introducing characters. Like, I just remember towards the end when Dave Franco and the other girl who was a vampire, I guess, they were fighting together. I was like, who is she?
Yeah,
I
the
don't
neighbor.
Remember her.
Yeah,
like,
she was
where
just
did
the
she come
neighbor or
from?
something, but yeah.
Yeah, but that didn't, like, read to me, and I've seen this movie twice now, because we were supposed to film this a month ago, and we didn't. So I've seen this movie twice now, and both times I was like, who is this woman that, like, we don't introduce anyone very well. Like, I guess we introduced Jamie Foxx's character well. Carla Sosa, for as much as I like her, very coincidental that the old lady just happened to be her daughter.
Yeah,
like,
And that was almost a throwaway line, too. Like, if you missed that line, you would have just been confused, you know?
You definitely would have.
Yeah.
But, like, they did not do a great job of introducing people in this movie. They did not.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. With other things that I don't think got a great introduction, with the Vampire Union, I didn't exactly get its purpose, because it seemed like Jamie Foxx's character was fighting vampires without the Union, and I guess the Union just gave him more money for the teeth, but, like, I didn't really understand why, like, aside from that being the force that put the two together for, like, the little buddy cop situation, like, I didn't really understand the purpose of the Union.
It was one of those things where I can tell they were adding it to add, like, layers and, like, richness to this society, but then they made it super duper confusing and not make sense. So it's like, thanks for adding this extra confusing element. I'm just gonna go ignore the Vampire Union now.
Yeah, no, we literally could ignore it the whole movie and it would change nothing.
Yeah, because even in the end, he quits the Union, if I'm not mistaken, and I
don't even remember. You know.
I just know Dave Franco stops being a pencil pusher, and partially because he's a vampire, I assume. But he just goes with Jamie Foxx's adventures now. I don't know, but
yeah.
This movie was
in
a very weird way.
I thought it would have made a good TV show. That was the other note I had, because, like, especially with, like, the 5 different levels of vampire, like, I think it could have made a good TV show where each episode they, like, try to take down a hive, and then the big bad comes at the end of the season.
Yeah, that's definitely a Monster of the Week type setup, kind of like Buffy or something. Yeah. That definitely would have worked as a TV show. Oh, I like that.
Because in this one, there was a point where they were kind of just fighting vampires, and, like, I didn't really know why. Like, I understood like he still like needed money for it, but it seemed like after the first raid he had enough money maybe, but I don't know, you know. I guess are we ready for ratings? Or you still
wait,
have
the
some
last
stuff?
thing I have was the humor was a little hit or miss for me.
The humor?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was fairly funny. It was fairly amusing, I will say. But there were definitely some of those scenes where they were like, I can't remember what movie I've said this before, where it was like, we just got to get every single joke, and then we don't like cut them off. So
I agree.
While
I
the
felt
scene
that
keeps
too.
going, it's like there's a nice joke to end it, but then they do like 3-4 more jokes, and it's like, no, we were good with the one joke. You could have just cut the camera there, or did a different cut and let the other joke come through. But like, it was one of those things where they were just like, everything that they're doing is gold right now. Because I don't know what it is. This is a side note. But I feel as though a really big thing actors are talking about right now is how much they were able to improv. Because I think everyone wants to like pretend they're the funniest actor in the room, and they're like, oh yeah, I was able to like improv through this. You see it in like Men in Black and like Thor Ragnarok, and I don't know why I'm picking on Chris Hemsworth, but like you see that a lot. But it felt like that's what was happening here too. And I do think Jamie Foxx is funny. Like, I've never been upset at something with Jamie Foxx. But this one, I was like, you guys thought everything he was doing was gold, didn't you? You guys could have cut off a couple jokes there.
Yeah.
Some of these scenes went on a hair too long.
Yeah, the specific moments I noticed there were like a few times where like he would get hit and be down and then just like make a little like quip, and I'd be like, it's like a little strange for the movie, but like I guess you allow it for Jamie Foxx, but yeah, I agree it was a little hit or miss with that kind of stuff on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I guess we're ready for ratings now.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I guess I'll go first. I give this one 2 stars. Well, I didn't like the plot or like a lot of the like various rules. I did really like the fighting scenes in this one, which I think made it enjoyable. And as like a kind of like action like vampire, it wasn't very spooky, which I honestly would have hoped it was a little more spooky. But I don't know, there was enough like action that kept me like at least interested in this one to like at least like walk out of this saying like, oh, like I at least enjoyed it, like the experience of watching it, even though like there were like a ton of plot holes and just like unanswered questions, and like it felt like you were kind of just dropped in on each character like in the middle of their existence. But yeah, for some reason, like I think Jamie Foxx definitely just being himself helped a lot to kind of, I guess, make it go along a little quicker. But that between that and like the fight scenes, I did actually find myself enjoying this one a bit. So 2 stars.
I also gave this movie 2 stars. Apparently, around the middle of the movie, I just started to get a little tired. It's one of those things where I can tell what they were trying to do. I think that's what, even though there were so many pop holes, I could tell what they were trying to do. Like, I definitely saw their vision. They just didn't quite reach it. It seemed like it wanted to be sort of like this super fun, irreverent, violent Deadpool or the Suicide Squad, the new one, not the other one, type movie, but it just misses the mark for me. So that's why it's a 2 out of 5.
Okay. And yeah, I guess we don't really do the last question for these, but our little alter version of, do you think like, it should have been made sooner? Or yeah. Yeah, for me, not really. It was fun for what it was, but I think there are like sort of equivalent movies that existed before this one, I think. So yeah, I don't think this one like needed to come earlier in particular, but it was fun.
I'm gonna say yes, it did need to come earlier, if only so we could hit that vampire wave. Because I mentioned Twilight. Twilight was like super big, 2009 or so. That's when we started getting the copycat like Vampire Diaries type movies, and then the opposite side, Teen Wolf and all that stuff. This would have been great if you added it right in there. I don't know if it would have been better, but like it could have definitely ridden the wave, because I don't think we're on a vampire wave right now.
No, I don't.
I don't think we are, at least. So. In terms of monsters, I don't think vampires are the ones. I think it's zombies for whatever reason.
You think zombies?
Maybe because of all of us are dead, but I don't know.
Yeah.
That'd be an interesting thing. What's the zombie of the
What's the monster of the decade, or
what's the monster of the decade right now?
yeah. But yeah, that was Day Shift. YouTube housekeeping, like, comment, subscribe.
Ring the bell for notifications. If you have any movie suggestions for us, you can leave them in the comments down below. We do movies on Tuesdays and Fridays. All of our socials will be linked in the description box down below, and we'll see you next time to catch up. Bye!
And I really did want to explore the 5 different types of vampires that were mentioned here. Like, I was so curious, and they told us nothing, you know?
Because the 5 vampires was like a throwaway line that I think Dave Franco's character said or something like that. He was like, yeah, and this one is like this, and this is the Crips, and da-da-da-da. And I was like, okay. And I was like, let me remember this. And then I was like, why do I remember this? This means nothing.
And then even at the, like, final hive, he was like, what? This is weird. They're, like, these different types of vampires living together, but, like, there would have been trauma, you know? But then, like, they didn't actually say why they were living together. Like, what happened? I guess
they didn't say what the drama would be. I was like,
So that was just the main disappointment I had in this one. Like, I was so excited to figure out. It was basically like when you go to that one work friend who you don't gossip with, and they, like, tell you a little bit of tea, and they're like, no, I don't do this. And I'm like, why did you start talking to me? Why did you start?